So, carrying on from our last two interviews, I want to go back to 1981-82, when for the very first time you slightly broke out of the rut. And that is when you felt that the availability of laboratory equipment, there was very, very little compared to your experiences in America. And then you raised the question, it may be very expensive if we buy it, but why can't we make it? If a technological institution of this caliber can't attempt this, who can? Did that go anywhere later in terms of scale, whether in this IIT or any other IIT?
So this was somewhat later, not in 81, 82. When I got to start getting that feeling around 84, 85 or so. So we made a fiber optic educator kit. This was made, I think, in 86 or 87, I don't remember now. This one kit, we transferred it to a company called Benchmark Systems, and they started selling it. I remember I got royalties on that till 2019. I don't know whether 2020 I'll get royalty or not, I don't know. But last year I got royalty. Every year, small amount. We are anyway getting only small percentage. But it has been sold year after year since then. It has pretty much reached most engineering colleges in the country. Multiple kits in each place. We had an experimental manual, everything. Essentially, we made students play with that. That's a major, the difference that multiple equipment vis-a-vis one equipment was whether the students are able to play with things or students just do what is told to them. So we made students play with them. And there was two incidents that reminds me about that. One is, there was another company which completely duplicated the whole thing, including the manual, except my name was not there. They completely duplicated and tried to manufacture and sell. In fact, Benchmark people came to me and said, can we do some, sue them or something like that. We tried, but we found that we didn't have enough protection, and somehow, but that disappeared. I think for a year or so maybe the margins were not that high that somebody could just sustain it. And we also, what we did is that we added a few experiments and it made it somewhat difficult for the other party. The second thing that I remember about that is that much later, about maybe 2012 or 13 or 2014, I remember, I was invited by the Education Secretary of Government of Gujarat, and she was somebody known to me, and she had invited me for some program and some interaction with college teachers and all that, and I had gone. When I landed there, suddenly I got a message from her that she's tied up that day, and suddenly she has been invited for something else and she has to rush. She will come, but for first several hours I will be on my own. And but there was a faculty from one of the university who came, picked me up. I went to a program and everybody was greeting me and talking to me. I was kind of wondering how they are talking so openly to me and so, as if they know me. So I said that I don't remember meeting any one of you, but you seem to know me. Is it just that you know of me, or? He said, sir, we have all used your fiber optic educator. So this was, more than 30 years after I had made that. In a very similar manner, my colleague Dr. Bhaskar Ramurthy made a communication educator kit. That was also widely used, not probably as widely used. It was also probably not made as well. And the third kit was made by my colleague along with me on network by Professor Gonzalez. LAN educator kit. So these three kits did go all over. Numbers, of course, was much larger on fiber optic educator kit. But I didn't see too many others from India. We had done another thing, is that we had helped same benchmark to actually supply a set of components which could be used for students to do projects. That also was widely purchased. That was more expensive, widely purchased, not as widely, but it was something that gave fiber optics life in the country.
I have a question.
One small thing toward it. Much later, we saw some others internationally, like Feedback is a company which came up with kits which were in different areas, somewhat similar. Microprocessor educator kits were anyway of that kind. So those were the kits that were used. And after that, things moved a little more to software. That in last 10-15 years. So a lot of experiments are actually done with a lot of software. So that is the change that has taken place. It is still not the same as what I saw in the United States.
Yeah. So at that time in the 80s, when you came up with this fiber optics educator kit, was there already some kind of working model on how academia and industry will share royalty? What was the protocol you followed, or was it a difficult negotiation?
It was not a difficult negotiations because Benchmark was virtually incubated by us in the sense that they were two of our alumni who had started the company, and we realized that we had asked for a royalty of some 3 to 4% to begin with, and that was supposed to decrease. So there was not much of negotiation. Was there a model? Not, I don't remember that. Why should we have not asked for more? I know, for example, much later the founders of the Benchmark were sort of saying that at that time even the 4% was pinching us. Because 4% was on the sale of the kit. So he says our margins were 15% or something like that. The important thing is that we had also sort of said that keep the cost low. That was, we had why? Because we wanted it to be widely used. So probably should we have kept it so low? I don't know, probably. I remember first time we sold the kit at around 25,000 or 30,000 rupees. But we didn't fully understand the business, and it was not difficult.
Okay, so then we come to the next phase when you were taking up a lot of projects. And in that, there were largely employees from outside IIT, because IIT students may work for 6 months.
Project staff, as working as project staff, many of them doing part-time masters. That became the norm. We will hire a whole lot of people, take projects, try to make things, deliver. These people will get trained. Many of them will become part-time masters with us. Not all, but around 20-25% will do part-time masters.
So at the peak of this phase, how many projects were there? How much staff was there at the peak of this? And at what year was it? 80s, 90s?
Well, today I have 150 staff.
This is different. Research.
No. I'm talking about 150 staff working directly under me on my electrical engineering projects.
Right.
Right. It is nothing to do with research park.
Right.
That is the same model that has continued. It has been all the time kind of now leveling off for last several years, but we grew to 60, 70 in 90s. And the other thing that happened is that now we also found that the project staff plus the employees of startups work together. So startup had more employees. So if you include that, that's what the numbers will be more. So now it is more because the startups have also, startup people are also counted. But projects we had, 100 when we crossed, it was substantial. It was the three of us. And I think I need to tell you a very important part of what happened. Till around 87, 88, I used to do work with maybe once in a while with some faculty, but by and large I was driving these things. And that time, two young faculty joined. One was Bhaskar Ramurthy, who was an alumni of this place, graduated I think 1980, and did his PhD in Santa Barbara, was in Bell Labs, and then came back. There was another was Professor Timothy Gonzalez. Timothy Gonzalez, he also was BTech. 1976 he did his BTech here. He went and was at Stanford, did his master's PhD, was teaching at WPI, and then came here. Now, Bhaskar Ramurthy was in my department and happened to have his room just opposite me. I mean, when we kept our room doors open, we could see each other. And a few of his teachers, Professor Radhakrishna Rao, Professor Anthony Reddy, by that time was very fond of me. So they had taken my help in trying to get him, in the sense they give the support in the department. And when he joined, immediately a good introduction was there. So we could just start talking to each other, trying to figure out. And we had initially some deep, good interaction. After some time, when he saw what I was doing, and I started talking to him about telecom and telephone, I found that he had much more experience directly in telecom. He had worked on telecom stuff at Bell Labs, and he was very keen. And he was keen that we work together in this area, so we had some more rapport. Timothy Gonzalez was in computer science department. It could have happened with a very little interdepartmental relationship, so I may not even have got to know him, except he happened to come into an apartment and start living just next to me. And after a few days, one late evening, there was no power, and I heard a knock at the door, and here is this man, European-looking man, saying that, "Do you have some candles?" They don't have candles. And of course, I asked him for his name and computer science department. I was very glad to meet him and all that, and gave him the candles. He put the candles, and I said, "If you have some time, why don't we chat?" And we sat down. And I remember we chatted for 2 hours. I told him that how we can transform country by this industry academy, our relationship, and creating products which are affordable. And somehow he seemed to have arrived very well. It made tremendous sense to him, and he started working together. So 3 of us now, and I immediately introduced him to Bhaskar, and all 3 of us kind of became an interesting group. I tried to tell Bhaskar that get a little bit of economics of telecom. By now I was trying to understand, and remember that not getting telephone for 8 years was something very much in my mind. I used to talk about it, I used to describe the issue to everyone and sort of say, why is this happening? And I had some kind of a economic analysis for this. Basically at that time, installing a telephone line used to cost around 40,000 rupees. That to install a telephone line. And it was Department of Telecommunication, part of Government of India, used to get a budget, and they will install a new telephone line. Every new telephone line they spend close to 40,000 rupees. I had done a very basic economic calculation. That time the interest rate, bank interest rate, if you borrowed money was 15%. So this 15% is the interest rate. And I kind of try to sort of say, if you install a telephone line and telephone exchange and give us the service, pretty much you need to, this will last for about 10 years or so. So, or maybe, so you need to depreciate it at 10%. So it became like 15% plus 10% is just depreciation and interest. And I kind of talked to different people. There was fairly heavy maintenance cost, particularly because of this underground cable, was also coming to 8 to 10%. So you needed about 35% of the initial capital, 40,000 every year, just to make any economic sense. Talking about profit. I had done a quick calculation that amounted to almost 15,000 rupees per year. So it was a 1,200 rupees per month. That time our salary was 3,000 to 4,000 rupees per month, and we were considering ourselves to be in very high income bracket. Where is the question of spending 1,200 rupees? If we telephone bills if we were given a telephone, probably would have been, I would have spent 150 rupees, 125 rupees, 150 rupees. I would have made sure that I don't use it more than that. And in fact, which basically means that I'll give something like 2,000 rupees or even less, 2,000 rupees of my telephone bill, whereas the telephone department needed 15,000 just to break even. So frankly speaking, telephone department did not want me to get a telephone. It made no sense to them. It was a budget item, so government, and the money available to the government was limited either for telephones or for multiple other things. So, and I could understand the rate of growth was very, very, very small. I also did a calculation that time by looking at some data. Data was not as easily available. That only about 4% of the people of country would be able to had incomes over 12,000, 15,000 rupees and could afford to spend 1,200 rupees per month. And we had 4%, number was 4% of our population had telephones. So it actually, first time and nobody actually told me this, but it came to me that the major reason we don't have this telephone available to everybody is that the cost was just too high and it didn't make economic sense. And of course it was reconfirmed because in my interaction with Department of Telecommunication or Sam Petroda around that time, in one statement, it was kind of confirmed that the telephone lines did not make economic sense. So all this was something that three of us used to discuss, and I was trying to convince both of them that we have to figure out a way to bring down the cost drastically from 15,000 rupees, 40,000 rupees to maybe 10. I did a back calculation, 10,000 rupees. Then same 30. You need 3,500. You need 300 rupees per month. And I said 300 rupees per month. Enough people will get it, and will all get it. I probably talked about it. I do not remember that. In fact, in one of the meetings in Department of Telecommunication where I was invited, I don't remember why, Sam Petroda was there, and he talked about that how telephone is just too expensive and that's the reason it is not available. And it is in that meeting a concept came of Panwala telephone. Did I talk about it earlier? So the Panwala telephone concept came that basically if we can't give a phone to everyone, why not put a telephone at a pawn shop? And pawn shop is open 16 hours a day, 365 days a year. So the people can come and make telephone calls. In fact, the person will even pick up the telephone if somebody's call comes and will at least be able to pass the message that, because the person knew everybody. So that was a very important element, and so from there the concept of STD PCOs had come up. PCOs had come, not STD, operator assisted PCO. Before that, there was coin by box telephone, and very soon it was vandalized and it never worked. So that, in fact, in the beginning, the department, several people in the department were opposed to it and saying that, well, giving these many telephone lines will be expensive and you will not get revenue. Each of these telephone that they gave them almost 30 to 40,000 rupees income per month, right from beginning, because they were always queue. And then came this whole concept that maybe night time or evening time you can reduce the rates because the long distance lines are available and they are not used. So that played a very important role. And all this was something that I used to tell both Timothy and Bhaskar, that these are things that have happened in the country. And I have noticed one more thing, that, I mentioned that there are a large number of engineering colleges in South India. So we suddenly found that people from all over the country were coming to South India to learn, study. And then they will also get employed in various IT companies. A large number of IT companies will absorb them because they were paid well, they treated people decently. But one of the most important thing there was STD PCO, because it was connecting them back to the home. Without that, there would have been more resistance. The STD PCO was playing a very important role for movement of people. I remember there was one place where STD PCO was put up in the outskirts. Some politician had was in that area and somewhat outskirts. And that area developed in no time, because immediately after that you saw, first of all, taxi stand came up because people could call, and after some time you could see that small factories came up. Women will be more ready to come because it gave them the security. The telephone gave them the security. So I saw all this. On one hand, I'm seeing this as an example of entrepreneurship, example of affordability, making India has a hungry and has a huge demand if you can make affordable products. I saw these things as a tool for development. And it provides safety, security. Because people from North India were coming to South, I also saw gradually a much better understanding develop between North Indians and South Indians. Till that time, even though I had married a Tamilian, my family, everybody used to call anybody south of Southern Line as Madrasis. And they're all Madrasis. They didn't even understand the difference. When Bhavani will say, well, I'm a Tamilian, so Tamilian, Telugu, that was Madrasi. Everyone is Madrasi. So a better understanding, appreciation started. The next very important thing that started was that when men and women working together, they will fall in love with each other. And very interesting thing that we saw was a lot of marriages taking place between North Indians and South Indians, and their caste, community no longer mattered. In some sense, I got a feeling this IT industry and all this colleges in Southern India, private colleges, and this STD PCO was all integrating India. And so for me, these things became very important. But this is the way India has to go. Of course, the difficult thing came, and this came in my lab first. Because remember, I was employing 60, 70 people, and there were people from all over, and there were people from different background. So first of all, there are many people who someday I will find out, or they will come and tell me that I have fallen in love with such and such person and we want to marry each other, and our parents are opposing because I am from this community and I am from that community. First I saw caste issue, and they would say that, sir, please help us. And I sort of say, I'm going to stand with you. So if you want, decide, are you certain you want to get married? And if you do, yes, I'm going to stand with you. And very often I used to negotiate with their parents, and it used to be enough many times. But I would stand and I would try to explain. And being a faculty at IIT, some reputation was there. Sometimes they would listen to us. Of course, occasionally it would get very bad, but they would listen. Problem started because there was one case where a Hindu was marrying a Christian. And this was a difficult one. Even the Hindu group on campus, even our temple Samajin people, many of them are quite upset. In fact, one or two of them, senior faculty, came to me, Ashok, something like this you should discourage, you should somehow separate them, not put them together. And I listened to them and I kind of talked to them, sir, what can I do? And because they're senior faculty, I didn't confront them, but I could see that. And but the boy's father was a priest, and he wrote long letters saying, I must stop this. And of course, I didn't even reply, but I told the boy that I'm not going to do any such things. Then the letter became very bad, very dirty, calling me all kinds of names. And God will punish me and this, that. I am the one who's encouraging them. And it was not true that I am the one who brought them together. But sure, I had stood with them. And finally, it even happened that he came one day, friends shouted at outside my house. So these are things that we had seen. The worst was when a Hindu and Muslim were getting married. This became a problem. Actually, from both sides. I won't say that it's from one side. But that's the time I felt a little scared. Because the roughness I could see was much higher. And yet, as far as I am concerned, I was seeing this as a method of national integration and a path forward. Fortunately, we were able to see that more easily into inter-community marriages and inter-caste marriages. I did not see that much openness yet on inter-religious marriage. And that's continued. This is not something that ended there. Even now it happens. So now probably I am become older, so people don't come as easily to me. But earlier, I mean, there was age difference of 10 years, 12 years between me and them. So they would more easily come to me and talk to me and all. But it still happens. It still happens. So for me, all these were very different phenomena. And I looked at them as positive phenomena helping the country to develop.
But you, Bhaskar and Timothy, how were you exactly involved in the telecom revolution?
So the basic thing is that we understood the economics and we said we have to somehow make the cost much lower. One of the things that happened is that by now we understood every part of the telephone system. We realized that there was an exchange which was costing 15,000 rupees, 18,000 rupees. But what had happened is when Sam Pitroda had come, he said that electromechanical exchanges can be converted into tomorrow electronic exchanges. And we could see the price reversing. And there it was going down to 10,000 and probably below. It will get lower and lower. We clearly saw that cost is going to go down. The backbone network, the long distance network, the trunk network was of course highly shared. We had small number of lines. That cost was also folly. The key thing that had happened there is that multiplexing started, which of course I was also teaching, and then fiber optics. And that was my work, and I could see that with fiber optics carrying hundreds of calls in one fiber and then thousands of calls, it's just a matter of time that that cost will come down. So we had done a projection that the cost of long distance line will go down to 1,000 rupees. The cost of exchanges will go down to 3,000 rupees. The main cost then was from exchange to home. Telephone instrument was only 600-700 rupees. Exchange to home, the copper wire. And that cost was going up year after year because the cost of copper was going up year after year. And number two, the cost of digging and laying wire involved manual labor was going up year after year. That cost, from the time we started, it was 15,000 and then went to 20,000, and we saw it going up to 25,000. So whatever reduction was getting done in elsewhere, in the exchange and the backbone network was getting added in the local loop. What's called local loop, the copper wire that came, a pair of copper wire came from Adyar telephone exchange to my telephone. And if there's a second telephone nearby, another pair of wire came. It is here that Bhaskar had done some work on wireless, some familiarity, not too much. And we came with the concept, can we do this on wireless? The problem is that whatever understanding that we had about wireless, actually the cost was much, much higher. A wireless line will cost more than a lakh rupees, multiple lakhs rupees. So where is this question of our ability to reduce costs by a wireless local loop? So wireless local loop did not happen in early 80s. It actually waited till 94, 95. But 89, 88, 89, we took upon another thing that, from Adyar to here was a 5 kilometer, a copper wire will cost so much. But when I went into rural areas, villages, the distance would increase much larger, 25, 30, 35 kilometers. And there to give a phone in a rural areas will be as difficult. Will become impossible. Costs will become too large, and mostly the copper local loop. So it is here we conceive that maybe wireless can be put. Of course, wireless will still be very expensive, but what we came up with the concept that we can take a wireless line to a small C-dot kind of exchange, a small exchange at a village, and then we'll give about maybe 30-35 lines nearby. And that concept was the first concept that we thought we could actually work on. So the three of us, and that really appealed to us even more because we are touching rural India, and fortunately all three of us had a little bit of feeling that we must do something for rural India. And Timothy also got very excited, Bhaskar and we started sort of saying we'll design a wireless system for rural India. Question is, what do we do? So we started exploring here and there, maybe giving a talk, some amount we had done the work. Fortunately, my work on fiber optics had taught me how to do multiplexing of signals, which I was doing, and so those things we knew. And we figured out if I do wireless, one direction it will be from one point to multiple point, and from other point it will all come. It will require something called TDM, TDMA, time division multiplexing, time division multiple access, and we could sit down, three of us, and figure out what it will require. Theoretical understanding of that was not that difficult. And my experience by that time of building system, Bhaskar had not built system, Timothy had not built system, but I have built. And they could see that, yes, they would join immediately. But the Timothy will do all the software because he was fairly good at it and he picked up. He was not necessarily very good, he very good, quickly picked up. And in fact, my strength was not software. And he could do the software very quickly and train people on the software. So that worked out very well. And on the other hand, Bhaskar knew wireless modem. Rest, I knew. Switching, carrying signal, multiplexing, I knew. He knew wireless modem very well. And we had by now figured out that instead of making discrete modem, we can use a digital signal processor, DSP, which is like a processor, and it will become a programmable modem. So we could actually do this. So we conceptualized the design and we started knocking at doors. And fortunately, there was a gentleman, V.S. Raju. He was in charge of Telecom Engineering Center, or was in charge of rural telephony at Telecom Engineering Center in Government of India, Delhi. And somewhere we kind of in some conference, I was making a presentation and he met me and he said that that he's very interested in getting something like this. And I said we can actually build the whole thing. So he said that I will fund it. You should build the whole thing. He asked saying that you, and I mentioned about Bhaskar, you will come today on such and such day. And if you come, we will set up a meeting. And if you can really build something, we will help you build it. We'll give you funding. We are by confident by now that we will be able to do that. That of course, this is a village telephony. And this is not a wireless and local loop strictly, but village telephony. This is a large project. By the standard that we're doing, the cost will also be large. And so we went, the two of us went. Unfortunately, while we were actually flying to Delhi, we heard the news that M.G. Ramachandran passed away that very morning, I think December 26, 1988 or so, something like that, or maybe. And when we landed in Delhi, we found that everything shut down as a result of it. The meeting was getting cancelled. With great difficulty, we managed to reach his home and had a 1.5 hour meeting. And he showed immense amount of saying, yes, if you people can do this, this is the way to go about doing it. We said, we'll build everything. He thought we'll do small things. He said, no, we'll build everything. TDM, TDMA, wireless, point to multi-point, PMP, wireless system. And it was non-trivial. I mean, it took quite some time. But we got the funding. And we had hired a whole lot of people. And that we will actually build it. An interesting incident that took place at that time. It was going on all right and we are starting to do things. We're starting to build something, and I had put a team of 30-35 people to this. That one day we heard that this project is not going to go through. It's going to be stopped. Why? Because Sam Petroda doesn't believe that we can do this. A similar work will be done by somebody from California who is bringing and say he will build this system. So we contacted Raju and said, what can we do? He said, the two of you come. Bring whatever you have built, a few cards, this, that, and come. I'll organize a meeting with Sam Petroda. And so we went there with everything. It was a big meeting of Sam Petroda was there. There were about 15 to 20 other officers. This American gentleman was also there. And Sam Petroda walked in. And before we even started presenting, he says, what are you people doing? People think that it's such a simple system that you professors can build something like that. Do you understand what it means? And all that. So we said, sir, we think we can. You give us an opportunity and we'll present to you what we are doing and why we are doing it. So one thing I noticed that as soon as he walked in, everybody in the room stood up. All the secretaries. That itself was a little odd. I never not realized it. And soon I figured out that in front of him nobody else will speak. It is either he will speak or we'll have to speak. Till that time I did not know government well. So this is something that I learned. So here I start my first slide. And he interrupts me about 6 times. And each time try to take things off, I'll try to bring it. By the time I came into second slide, and he was going on basically same theme that you people do not know what you are doing without listening. And we're getting a feeling, I was getting a feeling and getting a little upset and angry. It is not going to go anywhere. And he had a very loud voice and he was just kind of almost intimidating voice and he will do this. So suddenly I didn't know. I looked up to him. And I said, sir, I do not think that you are interested in listening. There is no point in my making a presentation to you. I'm stopping it. He was quite angry. He says, you think I do not listen? And I could see the room shivering. He says, somebody talking like this to Sam Petroda? I said, yeah, you're not interested in listening. He says, what makes you think that I'm not? He said, before I say something, you're interrupting and going on talking. Listen to me for at least 15 minutes without interrupting. And after that, you don't like things. You think you are wrong. No? I mean, it was difficult to speak up to him, but I did speak. He looked at me also. Okay, I'll keep quiet, but not 15 minutes, 5 minutes. We bargained. The very interesting thing, I came down to 10 minutes and he will come to 7 minutes. Finally, all of us settled at 8 minutes. This was something, a very unique experience for me. We are fine. The 8 minutes he will not speak. So I started making a presentation, 3, 4, 5, 6 slides of how we are doing and what. And it was probably 5 or 6 minutes. And he immediately couldn't hold himself. This is great work you are doing. I'm going to be fully behind you. So completely overturned. And from there onwards, it was a very interesting discussion. I had earlier tried to show him even Raju, almost shiveringly told, sir, they have already made parts of it and all that. He was not willing to listen. And now, whole thing became very different. And they had given us some very small funding. He immediately sort of said, no, we should give him the full-fledged funding. We should give them full support. Except we were supposed to do it in about 2.5 years. He says it has to be done in 9 months or something like that. Which we tried to tell that it is impossible, but he was sort of saying the country very badly needs it and we'll provide you whatever support you need. I said, sir, even getting the components, even to make a telephone call, it's impossible. So he looked at Raju. He says, why is telephone call? He said, I don't have a telephone. Please see to it tomorrow he gets a telephone at his home. I got the telephone. That same number I'm been carrying from that time onwards. And it was initially a DOT telephone, which I got free, no call charges, including any amount of international calls. I say my vendors are outside, I have to get the components, and importing a component requires so many certificates from Ministry of Information, at that time the Department of Electronics. He just kept on telling them, no, you tell them, they will call, order, components will come. We will figure out. It's your job to figure out all the things. And we got great support. But we actually started making system. He became a big champion of ours. He will speak about us, take us, make us give talk, and things move very well. 6-7 months, we are almost done. Not almost done, we are probably 6. We had asked us 9 months, we probably would have completed in about 15 months. We had done the basic things and things were actually working. That time, Rahul Gandhi lost the election. New government came in, VP Singh, which by the way, I was a very big supporter of VP Singh. I'm the one who campaigned for it and all that, but wanted Rahul Gandhi to be defeated or Bofors to be because of Bofors. I didn't know much more than that. But here he comes, he is kind of attacked in all kinds of ways. He was, of course, running CDOT, but all kinds of allegations came. I knew all those allegations were false. Yeah, I mean, by now I was very close to him, both of us, Bhaskar and I. We realized that, yes, he speaks very loudly and blunt and I'll say even rough, but otherwise he's totally committed to India and Indian technology development. You have to stand up and tell him he's wrong, he's willing to accept. Of course, if you gets cowed down, you can't do very much. So by now I knew that he's a great champion of this. So in fact we were feeling very sad that he was getting targeted. And in fact I remember going to Professor Indiresan and telling that we must do something. And I remember Professor Indiresan took the lead to try to create support for him. And even many of us joined. But he was finally removed and somebody else came in and all that. What we found is that the new set of people who came in CDOT, because it was finally decided that CDOT is going to productionize our system. And our interface with Bangalore was going on. The new set of people were rough on us, right in the first team. Raju's position was there, but he had also gone to CDOT, but I could see that he also didn't have as much freedom. It was all part of that whole political stuff. And so the same battle started again. Then how do you convince the new set of people? Fortunately, they were good people in CDOT, the new people who had come. Initially, they were very rough. It took us almost 9 months to 12 months. And the project was delayed and everything was 12 months. Cost has gone up as a result of that. That became a big problem. But finally, after 12 to 15 months later, we were able to convince the news or CDOT people that this has nothing directly to do with whatever you're doing, sample rise, separate thing. This is important, it should go on. And they restarted the whole thing and said, okay, now CDOT will go through and CDOT will take the technology. And we actually made the whole system, in fact, installed it in I don't remember where, maybe southern Andhra Pradesh somewhere. We installed on a tower, our base stations, and we did everything. And the trials were reasonably successful. There were some lacunas, some problem. But in the meantime, I was seeing that CDOT was coming. Even though we were accepted, CDOT was coming. And the people who were interfacing with us and who could easily take our technology and fly had started leaving, and new people who were coming are not that competent. And they did not know how to take this forward. So in spite of our making the whole thing and demonstrating the whole thing and transferring things to CDOT, the next step of productionization, which CDOT was supposed to do and could have done it in 3-4 months if the previous team was there. Just that this new team was not capable of it, dragged on, and the project lost its strength. Of course, we had trained a lot of people. There was a good team that was there, project staff. Remember that all these youngsters came to us, fresh graduates, tier 2, 3 engineering college. 3-4 years that we worked on this, they're fresh. They're doing extremely well. And we are somewhat little lost. What next?
The applicability of this was just in India, or did you sense that
This
all
would have gone all over.
Yeah.
Our TDMA system that we first designed should have gone all over, because that was probably the lowest cost system. There was some system, for example, that person, Bruce was his name, Sam Petrona's friend, he had designed something, but a much poorer system. This was a low cost, rugged, robust. It could have gone like a C-dot racks, one into two. It could have gone all over the world. This was that time actually we realized the gap between India and abroad was not that strong. We had done a lot of software, a lot of this thing. Our architecture was very good. Once we could get components, rest we could do. We certainly could not make as dense a board. Our sizes were bigger and all that. I remember once we even sent a board to Singapore so that we could, somebody went there overnight, 12-layer board, so that the morning they reached, they got the board fabricated and came back next day. So we didn't even try and do things like this. That way Raju was very good. He enabled us in all kinds of ways. And it was something that we felt sad that we were not taking. It could have made a huge difference. A few learnings. By the time the three of us were working very closely with each other, and we were very good friends, and we could complement each other. We had created good team. We are doing things. We also realized that if you are funded by government and work with the government, you will be knocked this side sometime, that side. And the amount of time and energy that you spend in just managing this is just too large. It is at this time, with all the economics worked out, 92, 93, we started looking at the concept of wireless in Europe. This is the time we sort of said, well, what if not for rural areas? Rural is fine, and we'll do that. But why can't we even, from Adyar to here, we can do a wireless telephone? Why can't we put everything wireless? We conceptualize this wireless in the world. Generally, nobody was too much in favor. This village thing that we did, we are actually going and putting a small exchange there. It was for 24 lines. So 24 lines cost got distributed. So even if it cost 3-4 lakhs rupees, cost would get distributed. So it was not that much. But here, when we are talking about, we are already talking about it has to be under 10,000 rupees. And the cost of our wireless at that time was very high. 1 lakh rupees, maybe we will be able to do it. That's the way the thinking was. So it took us some time. We are also reflecting a lot. What is the best way to do technology development and really proliferate? We started working on this concept of wireless and local loop, which will make all telephones into wireless. And as I told you, we are not encouraged because cost will be too high. We, on the cost front, among the three of us, we figured out two things. First of all, if we use more programmable components, digital signal processor, a lot of things was being done in TDM, PPMP by hardware. By now, between me and Timothy Gonzalez, we figured out that many of these things could be done by software. And the modem also, we could do more and more on software. So we could do work on software. So the number of components that will get into it will reduce. That is something, and we can possibly bring down the cost somewhat. And software cost is one-time effort. We never costed software. We sort of said, well, yes, but if it's a million telephone, it will get divided. So how does it really matter? It's an R&D effort. We also realized that if we can make this into integrated circuits, and we realized that if you want to make a wireless and telephone, it can't be with discrete components, it has to be with integrated circuits. That time, there were some programmable components coming which you could actually program, and instead of putting 40 components, you could actually put it into one component. So we are already starting to utilize that, but we realize that that also will not help because that's still too expensive. Programmable, we'll actually have to make a discrete integrated circuits. So we realized that we have to make a discrete integrated circuits. We realized that we have to put in a lot of programmability, and that was a big thing that three of us came up with. That we are replacing copper by electronics. And look at what's happening in the world with electronics. Cost of electronics is integrated circuit. Integrated circuit depends on volume. Integrated circuit first depended on volume. So if our volume is 1 million or 10 million, and that time we are starting to think of 100 million, then the cost of component will be very low. Number two, the integrated circuits followed Moore's law. So every 18 months, the cost becomes half. 3 years, it becomes 1/4. So sort of thing, we are just about starting to design. By the time we design it, it would already be half. And by the time it really seriously gets productionized, it's by 1/4. So we should be able to hit much lower. We did all this paper exercise, and he says, well, it will cost only 10,000 rupees per line. We are confident that we can come close to that. By now, this time, we understood multiplexing, how the exchange can be done, and we came up with the concept that it is possible for us to do 10,000 rupees. But, okay, who will make integrated circuit for us? Where will we get money? By now, we figured out that we are not going to go to the government. In our mind, multiple things were there. First, where will we get our team from? We need a team. We realize that all these young project associates is great, but if you want to make something fast and good and rugged and make it into 100 million, we need a very strong team. And where will we get a strong team? People with at least 7-8 years experience who have worked in industry. I again remember that three of us sat down together and we started writing names of our alumni who had worked, who I had taught, because these people were just come, who I could possibly approach. And if they were willing to leave their jobs and come, and we figured out if they came, formed a company, they could work with us, and maybe 50% they will own, 50% we will own, we'll have something substantial. We figured this out. This was something that we figured out. I remember writing a name of 8 people. I said, if we can get 5 of these people, we can do it. Probably 2 or 3 of them had worked with us on that TDMA, PMP also. So, we went around and selling this dream to these people. Of course, IIT didn't have incubation and all that, so these people will form their own company, and their company will work as a project partner at IIT. We will not formally incubate it. And they will own 50%, they own 50%. That's the way we kind of worked out. Fine. So we had the engineering talent which we could get at a signal. We knew the design. But who is going to make integrated circuit for us? Who is going to give us funding? And we realized by now that we will need large funding. At that time in 1994, 93, we estimated at 3 crore rupees to get to it. and in today's term, probably it will be about 100 crores. Yes, we had done number of things, built number of things, had some reputation. Who is going to bet so much? And we are not going to go to the government. So once again, a matter of luck or fate. In the meantime, we had done one work with a company called Analog Devices. This is a US-based company which makes integrated circuits and makes digital signal processors, which we are, by the way, heavily using in our TDMA, PMP also. We knew everything about that component. And there was this young man, Ashok in Bangalore. He was their India representative. Somehow, in making this TDM, PMP, he had become quite friendly to us. He was a young man, younger to us. And he kind of was somewhat of a champion that we can actually make this. Till this time, he says all of their customers only imported everything. We could do it. So, he had even come up with an interesting thing that there was with his component, digital signal processor, he wanted to do a design for some Taiwanese company. And for a telephone answering machine. And we knew telephone answering machine is easy to make because we were by now new. But he wanted to do it exactly at X.YZ dollars per piece. It cannot exceed that. Very tough price. So I don't remember what the number was, but very, very low number. And it says a high volume of million. I want to be designed for that. That was very tough. But we knew everything about that component and he helped us. And we actually made and designed and developed that telephone answering machine, which BPCL started manufacturing. BPCL? Not BPCL, not Bharat Petroleum. BPL, telephone company, started manufacturing. We transferred the technology to them and they started manufacturing to try to sell it. We again were supposed to get some royalties and through Analog Devices. Analog Devices started liking us. We got to know them quite well. So, their chairman raised data. And there was another gentleman to which India team reported at this project of telephone answering machine was another man called Mike Hyder. Mike Hyder used to work in Analog Devices USA. He was some general manager for this whole area, and his thing was get the design done and use their components and take it. So these two people, they say, are coming to Bangalore. There is some kind of a conference, and they invited us also because we had done the design, and they will get us to meet chairman and both Race Data and Mike Hyder. And the two of us, myself, Bhaskar, went. We, of course, talking to them. Mike Hyder we met first before the function. And party kind of thing was there. He was from Lebanon originally and had gone to US exactly my age. And very soon we kind of learned that he had immense commitment to try to develop a country, emerging economy,
third world country.
Third world country. He was very committed to that. And very soon, in a short time, we got to know that, he would say, my country is in a mess. I can't do much for this. So I have adopted India. And I now meet you people. We can actually do this. This whole thing can develop. And I shared with him all this. I probably met him one day before that function. All my dreams and how this development can take place and all this that I've been telling you, actually shared with him. And fairly soon we became good friends. And then, of course, Next day we meet Ray Stater, a multi-billionaire founder. He, by the way, was a graduate from MIT, known to be a very good technologist. When it started, I mean, I was a little awed by it, but yet I could see that conversation was very easy. You could immediately start asking somewhat technical question, and we could start talking technical language. And he was asking about the telephone answering machine, about the digital signal processor, and he knew a lot about DSP. And when we asked him something, he could say that. And in the process, I told him, by the way, Ray, sir, we have a dream of 100 million telephones in India. And we would have liked to design some components. And we, of course, plan to use your digital signal processor. That you want to see 100 million telephone. I gave him the pitch why India had only 8 million telephones and costing 40,000 rupees per line and interest rate, depreciation, whatever I just not told him. And our idea is to make it to 10,000 rupees so that it gets 100 million. He said, I want to meet you. I want to spend some time. I want to see your presentation. And my panel is there, Ashok is there, Bhaskar and I, and we find that his schedule was just too tight. He had no opening. I said, sir, minimum half an hour I'll need to make a presentation and convince you. So we figured out if you could meet early morning 6 o'clock. His meeting was only starting at 7. 6 to 7 we can have breakfast and make a presentation next morning. This was decided around 9 o'clock p.m. in the evening. And we are staying in the same hotel, and our devices had put us up. Next morning at 6 a.m. we went and made a presentation. One presentation, by the end of the presentation, he told me, Jhunjhunwala, analog devices will make this chip for you that you are talking about without any cost to you. And we'll sell this chip, we'll also pay you royalties. We couldn't believe it. We had not even gone with that expectation. And suddenly I have now a team with me, and I have the basic design, what we will, I means we have, and we have these analog devices partnering with us. And he immediately said, whatever is required, he's willing to come down again in 3 months or 4 months down the line, go with us to whoever is required, and do a more full presentation. He told me a few things, and we're fine. Now, we started approaching industry. And by now I knew that I have nothing except a paper design. Of course, I have a team which they will understand, not understand. I have analog devices behind us that will help me a lot. But I have only a paper design. And I needed 3 crore rupees, which, as I told you, was huge money. How will I get that money? So in my mind, Mike Harder was working with us now by very closely, saying if we can give to 4 companies, and each of them give us 75 lakhs rupees, and we'll give the design to 4 companies, that's better. The model of C dot, which was going in licensing, and they will manufacture and do this. So I started going around. I knew that this kind of decision can only be taken by chairman of the company, chairman, CEO, cannot be taken by anybody else. I also knew that I cannot try to sell them the design and all that. First of all, I have nothing, and paper design, they will not understand. I have to sell them a dream. So my line was exactly this. India has 8 million telephone, we want to get to 100 million telephone by 2000. And the reason it has 8 million telephones is because it is only 40,000 rupees. By that time I created a nice curve and done some that if it becomes 10,000 rupees, then 100 million telephones are possible. And the demand is there that you do. And why we will get to 100 million is all I'll tell that I will put it in this, do this thing in software. So my cost will come to under 10,000 rupees. Well, we went around, and occasionally with analog devices, with mic rider going, and was able to, I went to WS Industries, the first industry that had agreed to do the, remember that thing that I had done, he became big supporter of us, so he agreed to be the certified lakhs. I went to a company called Sham Telecom, which had done a lot of work on, pioneering work on this cable TV. And the person was a more of a kind of a maverick engineer, Rajiv Malhotra. He's not a person who is very well educated, but he could work with hand. And somehow he was in telecom. They were taking a telecom license for Rajasthan, and or were intending to. So I could go and sell him that dream, and the money was too much. And somehow he kind of agreed. I had a very good relationship with ECIL Hyderabad, the government company, Electronic Corporation India Limited. I'd actually done a number of projects with them. So there I had a very good relationship, and I was able to go and sell it to them. And the fourth, the biggest thing was a person from Crompton Greaves, KK Nuria. He is a very well known, highly respected person. So I don't remember how, but I got introduced to him. And I talked to him. When he saw, he agreed. And I remember that, okay, in the meantime, so while this is going on, I'm still sort of saying what else will we require to get things done. I was very excited, and one day happens to be that I am flying early in the morning to Delhi, and Professor Indiresan is flying the same flight. Met at the airport, I started chatting, I would leave him, and I will tell him the whole dream. That this is why I will do something like this. He listened to me, so he asked me, I said, well, I don't have, I wish I had a department of telecommunications, blessings. But in the meantime, there is one more thing that was happening, that in India, the newspaper headlines, this was a big headline issue that people are not getting telephones, and there is such a long waiting list. So there was this new telecom secretary, Vittal. And he was a person who was going on saying, this is after privatization, 94, that I'm going to make sure that this waiting list disappears. I'll increase the number of lines available to very large. And somebody asked him, sir, but it costs so much for each line. Where will so much money come from? Where will you get so much money? You'll not be able to get it. And he would make off the cuff remark, which would be caught as a headline. Well, I'll privatize. I'll get private participants to come in. That's the first talk of private. Then who will come and install this telephone line? So private money will come in. Some other journalist will ask him that, but that means all these private companies will start digging roads to lay wires. It will be a chaos. Already that time, laying a telephone cable meant disruption to the traffic and was a big pain in India. And when it was pushed, he will say, well, I'll make it all wireless. This is the same time, and it was a what's called music to our ears. And Bhaskar and I and Timothy will look at each other. Is it real? Is something going to happen? Can we really help him do this? we started inquiring around. Remember that we had a connection with CDOT, with GA, VS Raju, this, that, and talking to different people. I still had the telephone, which I still didn't have to pay for the telephone. It was at my home, the free telephone available. And I was talking to a lot of people, and people had respect by now because we had done TDM, PPAP. They were talking to us. So my conclusion after my fact finding was, number one, that Vittal is dead serious. He's whatever he's talking about. He's not talking there. He's serious about privatization. He's serious about wireless. I also realized that he knew nothing about technology and had no idea what to do with wireless. So I was telling Professor Indresan, I wish I could go and present this to him because this is what he wants to do and we know how to do it. Professor Indresan listened to me. He will say yes, he will see what he can do. He got down, he took my telephone number where I'm staying with my uncle and my number, etc. He said, let me get back to you. By the time, as soon as I reach my home, I get a telephone call from him. Ashok, I'm coming, picking you up. And we are going to go and see Vittal. It was a Sunday morning. We are going to go to his home. Only now it tells he's a very good friend of mine. I have talked to him and he has asked me to bring you along. With no notice, in 10-15 minutes he will come. And I didn't have anything even better. Even my slides were not there. I had drawn something on paper in the flight with him. But he came personally driving the car, he took me, talked to me, saying, he is very serious, you will find him as a driver, he will listen to you. I go there and I see this man, very busy, a couple of people were there, he had 3 dictaphones. So he was going through something and dictating something. He, of course, greeted Professor Indresan like I did, just nodded at me and made me sit down. And he's going to ask for some tea, etc. for us. And going on continuing doing his work. Once in a while, he'll get a telephone call and he'll make one call and at his home. And whenever he gets a little time, he'll do some pleasantries with Professor Indresan. He'll ask about something. He won't talk about what we are going to do. It's still too busy. After about 45 minutes or so, he suddenly told Professor Indresan, so what were you telling about this wireless? So Indresan introduces me and asks me to talk. And I started talking to him, pitching to him that, including the 40,000 rupees, depreciation, interest rate, how we'll have to make wireless has to be made in 10,000 rupees, and how you have to do the components, the Moore's law, or all those things I talked. The interesting thing was, Vittal was going on looking at his files, making some correction, even once in a while stopping me and going on to a dictaphone, and didn't look up to me at all. Almost, I felt listening with some contempt. Then in the end, after I kind of made the pitch, he stopped his things. Says, okay, how much money do you want? Do you need? How much money have you come to? How much money you have come to ask me for? I looked at him and I said, I've not come here to ask you for any money. He says, what do you mean you've not come to ask me money? How do you do all this? I said, if I have such a big dream of 100 million telephones, I'm sure I'll find industrialists to fund. I saw him jaw dropping. And I've already roped in people who will fund me. I even told him the amounts. I told him Ray and our devices already agreed to make the chip for us. He was taken aback. I could see his total focus is now me. I said, then what do you need me for? What have you come for? I said, sir, I have come for the same thing. If I was in France and I was going to do this, whatever I would have gone to French Telecom for, I would come for the same. Number one, I want DOT to define standards in working with us. So they make standardize what kind of wireless telephony can be done. Number two, they make us do a trial at our cost, but with interfacing with them and all that, without any further charges to us. Number three, I want wireless spectrum to be obtained by you. Number four, they should evaluate the trial and see if the product is good. If the product meets the acceptable, whatever the acceptance criteria has to be defined right in the beginning, I learned all that from the CBOT. And if it passes all the acceptance criteria, then I expect you to put some tender for purchase some lines. I don't want to tell how much and what. He says, that's all that you are asking for. I said, yes. I saw him taking two dictaphones and starting to dictate two different letters, one to a set of people, one to another set of people, in discussing with Professor Indiresan. In one, he has already formed a committee with Professor Indiresan as chairman or one a member. Other 3-4 senior people whom I did not know, terms of reference for the committee and what it is supposed to. He had added, besides what we had asked for, that this team will help us develop the product, will visit IIT Madras and do all of the thing, help us develop the product and all that. Another one, he is writing to some wireless advisor for the wireless spectrum. So that was supposed to also get it. This team was supposed to get everything. He made it up. He writes in the next half an hour, we have another cup of tea, and he becomes so friendly. He tells me, Ashok, and he tells me, listen, you are his greatest champion. So it's a matter of luck. Now I have a team. I had a concept and understanding of what it takes to make wireless telephony. I have a team. I have somebody who will make the integrated circuits and help us guide, because Analog Devices said, we will review each of your design and help you. And Mike Hyder's 30% of time will be spent with us, helping us take it. And the only other thing that they said, they will take the technology from the world. They will also not take the technology, they will help us take the technology to other countries in the world. They will be our champions taking it to other parts of the world. We had agreed. I had these 4 people who were signed up 75 lakhs, were ready to sign up 75 lakhs. So I remember then having a meeting in Bombay in the, what is that place called? That club, Bombay Club. Very exclusive club. So Noria hosts a early morning breakfast meeting for all of us. Ray Skater had flew in, Mike Hyder was there. We were there. The 4 chairmen of these companies were there. And he would we will sit in front of us and we are supposed to be signing the agreement. And Noria gets up and says, Ashok, remember, you have not sold us a technology. You have sold us a dream. And we are with you. Make this possible. This was the starting of wireless in local. You know, there was a recording. Yeah. So this committee was formed. Good committee, high level committee. And they started visiting IIT Madras. We had a presentation. They were all very pleased. Professor Ingresam handled things very well. Things were moving in some sense very well. On the other hand, privately, all of them had a total disbelief. In fact, they would express to us that anything like this you people can do. How can something like this be done? Nobody in the West has done it. How can you bring down the telephone cost to 10,000 rupees? I remember the others would tell us, oh, some person remarked that, oh, these are professors, what do they do? Not our industrial partners, because they have given money, our team which was making things, but others, it was general word went around that we are doing something like this. And people kind of laughed at us. And very often sort of say, young professors. That time we were fairly young. What was my age? That time I was just getting to 40. Not even, I was 40. Maskar and people were younger than me. So, what do these young people? So, but fine, good, they are doing something. In fact, one person later told us that when they asked around, but some of them were working with us, some of the committee was working with us, initially very cooperative. So somebody asked them that, how come? They said, well, we are humoring. But the work went on. And this time I saw not 70, but 80, 85, 90 hours. In fact, if you talk to some of the young people who said we used to do night outs. And we also worked long hours, but we would go home, sleep, come back and work. Occasionally we'll have setbacks and we'll get together. We'll figure out the solution. Analog base devices was a big support. Mike Hyder was a big support. Ashok Kamath was a big support. Race data was coming every 4 months. He will review the whole thing. He will go with us. He will meet licensees. And I think even 1 or 2 meetings with some government officer. We met Vittal several times. Ingresam was taking us. So there was a good, everything was going on well. The key thing was, okay, we are getting ready. Where will we be able to install? Fortunately, we were given Adyar, Basantnagar area. We were lucky, we asked for it and we were given. And I remember a very interesting incident, and I want to express it more because it symbolizes. There was a restaurant in Basantnagar. It used to be initially called Second Avenue Restaurant. Nowadays, it's called Eden Restaurant. I don't know that you have seen that. It's a purely vegetarian restaurant. And we used to go there. I used to go there. I and my wife and a few friends of ours used to go there. We really liked the food. Food was a little expensive, but we enjoyed it. It was a restaurant started by 2 young women, our age at the time, maybe younger to her. And somehow, because we were going there a few times, we got to know them. They would come and they will tell us that they are a startup. And for us, well, they were starting and I used to talk to them that yes, very good, in what way we can help you. And this is somehow they got to know me, I had introduced myself. It had something to do with Department of Telecom. And they said, sir, one of the biggest problem that we are facing is that we don't have a telephone in our restaurant. And we need a telephone to do business. Because people call in even for order, but nowadays they are calling some PCO, and that's how we are getting message. We need a telephone, you can help us. So I told her that I can't get you a telephone, that's not my capability. But we are doing this wireless telephony. Will you be a trial customer? Will we do trials? We are going to do in this area, we'll give you the telephone. She was very happy. So one of the telephone that we gave was to hers. She still thanks us for the time we did. So around this area we gave phones. I don't remember how many, 150 or something like that. We had made all of this. And fortunately the trial went on very well. And all kinds of measurement, TC jumped over, trying to do the group which was asked to come and supervise and evaluate and help us, used to meet us frequently and used to go through our designs, take the papers of our design and do everything. And
which year was this?
We started in 94, 96, 97. We came out with flying colors. Everything we met. And we were very excited. All of us looked at, now the next thing will come. But in the meantime, internet gone away. It was worse because we were in the meantime talking about this wireless and local loop. We were invited in conferences, meetings, and we were talking about it. There were people who there were companies, particularly a company called Qualcomm, which was coming up with alternative system which was costing not 10,000, much higher, 40, 50, 60,000. They were still running us down that that's not possible to do that. And till one day we actually found that they were making a presentation in a conference after and we saw that some of our slides were being used by them. Well, exact. I mean, my circle was, I had drawn with hand and not drawn it properly. At that time, we used to use this transparencies and all. And that thing was also there. So I'm sort of saying it's copied, but more or less every concept and all that. Well, taken aback for things like that, but kind of thought, I'm just imagining. But as he made a presentation, it looked like he seemed to be doing quite a few things that we are doing. So I was a little concerned at what happened. Did he know something?
Was it in India?
In India. And in the meantime, some grapevines are saying, copy of your design is already with them. And many of our students used to work there. Where did he, what happened? We had no clear idea. Was it one of our team members? Was it the review committee or committee that was coming and reviewing? Somebody was there? We don't know. But suddenly we found that the spec which was finalized and based on which the government was supposed to be given, at least placing some trial orders, that was not moving at all. We are going on to Delhi and asking them, and they say some excuse or other, but things are not moving.
Was Vittal still secretary?
No, he is no longer there, and we'll try to go and meet the person who kind of talked to us, but nothing much was happening. Till one day somebody told us, Ashok, a specs is being made by Department of Telecommunication for procurement. But it is 180 degrees of the specs that you made. Exactly the inverted system. And initially we didn't believe it, but gradually we started seeing papers, and in fact, if they are the one who defined everything, they would change everything. They had defined the frequency, they had given us the frequency, based on which we had made chips for that frequency. And here they suddenly changed the frequency. And we went around asking, well, this frequency is not the Department of Telecom, it is the Department of Defense. So said, we asked them, why was this given to us? Oh, this is available in Adyar. But you can't do it in the rest of the country. We realized that that was not something accidental. Then we are sort of saying that if we were, it's just like if we are doing it in one way, the specs are everything you wanted. The specs was putting things where after we had multiplexed and got everything, we will demultiplex and then connect to exchange in a different manner so that our cost went down. And we will not qualify. This was, and we in the meantime we are running out of money. And we couldn't even, we are making the systems, even our licenses. We thought that they will be able to lobby and get things done, but they were not able to. WS Industries was saying that this is too much for them, they will not be able to do that. There was another company called HFCL, Mahindra Nahata. He somehow got to know it, he met me and he said, I'll buy them. So he bought the license. He had a lot of DOT interface, he gave us a lot of information. And he says, everyone is there to kill your system. You will not get anywhere. We wanted a large scale deployment, and we didn't even have a frequency for larger scale deployment. And in the meantime, analog devices, race data, Mike Haddon was coming. Finally, they told us, there is an opportunity in Madagascar. We can go and deploy things there. At least one large site, which will be, they are willing to purchase. Away in Madagascar. Unfortunately, because it was an international thing, analog devices was funding us travel and other things. So we went there and deployed there. It was very interesting, but by now we are kind of running out of money, we are running out of patience, and we had to do it there and far away. And suddenly we found that after we deployed, there was a problem that we noticed, that the system was making a crackling noise. We couldn't figure it out at all. Why this crackling noise? And it was up in the tower, and we'll do everything, tests, etc. We'll bring down the base stations, and we'll bring down the base station to ground level to test out everything. Everything is working, no cracking sound, it disappears. And we'll take it back, and again the same thing will happen. It took a lot of effort for us to figure out that it was merely a length of wire and resistance in that wire that was reducing the signal, and the signal to noise ratio was increasing. It was an incredible kind of effort required. Was how do you find out, take measurements up in the tower? Things were not happening. Fortunately, we had created enough ways by which one of our person said, I can listen to I can change the software on the fly through wireless, and can one young person was working, Sanjay Gupta, he said, I will do that such that it will listen and it will capture what the signal is, and then we will bring it down and analyze. All right, we can even bring the signal down and analyze. And we really found that the signal was dipping, and we finally figured out it was due to a cable, certain length. It was a very high 50 meters tower, and we changed the cable to larger thickness, and problem disappeared. We had in the meantime given the technology to a French company, and the French company was starting to manufacture and starting to try to deploy in northern Africa, Tunisia. We went there also tried to help, but it's all in India. We are not able to do things. In the meantime, a Chinese company, Huawei, came in. Through our devices and say they are interested in technology. They came, they agreed on all terms and conditions. We kind of, all the draft agreement was all done by our devices. And I don't know if they were signed or not. But in the meantime, they asked that they would like to send a team for an extensive training, 10 days training. And So we had these people coming from China, some 10, 15 of them, stayed in Tarmani house out here, and we used to, from morning to evening, train them. They will ask so many questions. Their English was very poor, but every detail, they will like to come and take photograph. They're a little worried. Some people ask them, do we allow them? But they said they're signed, it's all right. We will do that. They will go into detail how you are doing things. And we thought that they are getting ready, so we're very happy. One thing, after they went back from the training, we didn't hear from them. Analog devices will keep on contacting them because they're supposed to send the money, and the money will never be done. And no response. Mike Hyder will try everything and will not be able to do that. And almost a year later, I remember when Mike Hyder and I landed in Mali. We had greeted and we had some discussion, and then while we were talking, their English was very bad. We had taken to, in the meantime, we had tried to sell to another Chinese company, by the way. They had taken to a room, inside room, where they had deployed a system and completely copied our system. It was working, on the prototype was working. I don't know whether in reality, finally they sold it or not. But the ability to copy and deploy, the tendency to copy, taking the IPRs away by even a meeting, and we like fools were like teachers going out of way to try to teach them. So all this was going on. Some marginal, we got some order in Nigeria, so we were going and putting something, some orders here. Tunisia, and we got a very interesting person there who took immense interest. And for all of them, it was a big deal for their country. I mean, the Tunisian man was also a person, a professor who had come from the United States and settled back, and to him it was a big thing to transform the country. So in one sense, we are getting this huge coverage, but in India we are totally locked down. And in the meantime, we are going on working to try to improve the system. I had the people and all that, and we still just managed to somehow strive. We cut down our salaries and all that. And one of the interesting things that we did is that we knew that we had to go ahead. So we suddenly, from a telephony, we suddenly made a change so that we can provide a telephone as well as internet data. 2 lines. Without any additional modem. One telephone and internet will work simultaneously. 35 kilobit per second internet, but that time we didn't even have 35 kilobit per second internet at our offices. And suddenly we are doing that. Even that system was working. In India, however, we didn't see anything moving. And we kept on going, pleading. They said they will make a request to the defense. That's all that they could do for giving us the frequency. We kept on trying to get them to change specs. We are also preparing, can we change our system to the extent that we can meet the specs? So it was becoming very difficult. And we had no friends there. In the meantime, a lot of roughness, and we kind of realized that these people were all planning to put us down right from the beginning. Who influenced them? I don't know.
Still don't know.
Well, I can guess, but that's...
No, not the names, but was there, for example, does it have anything to do with cell phone industry?
Certainly there were some multinational companies which were influencing them and all that.
And did it have anything to do with the rise of the mobile phone?
No, mobile phone was still some distance away. There was mobile phones there, but we are still in wireless local. Mobile phones has just about started to come, but this was a little prior to that. We are not getting any further this thing. But finally we are sort of told that maybe you will get the spectrum, then things will be done. Because DOT also plead that what can we do? There is no spectrum. Yes, we made a mistake. And we had gone to that time to everybody in defense to try to get that. And on 2nd October of 1 year, I remember getting early morning news in the newspaper that defense denies spectrum to Cordet. Our main one was Cordet wireless, and they will not give us. Looked like almost a dead thing. This is the most difficult period. And from here onwards, next 1 year is the most difficult period.
And how about the 8 alumni who had joined the company? The company itself?
They are there with us. And that's where their salaries were cut, and this, that, the team member. We're getting some here and there, some allied devices were supporting us always, but looks like it's a helpless situation. Even race data would come and go to meet with different people along with us to Delhi, but it was not moving. Our licenses were trying, but they also didn't have the might to get things moving. Things start becoming worse. After that, the defense denies the spectrum. Few months later, we suddenly were told that there is a case that has been filed. We got a notice of a case for one company called Punjab Communications Limited. They filed a case which was a very funny case, couldn't even understand, but it's like that we promised them and denied them technology. We had met them once when I was going around in the beginning trying to find. One meeting we had, there was neither they kind of agreed nor we kind of even offered them terms and conditions for license and all that. So it had kind of died there. So that's all. But I don't know where this case came, which will stop us from doing anything and all that. That's what the whole thing was. And we later realized that was also got somebody to put it such that it gets us into trouble. Then now we heard another very, very peculiar thing. Sushma Swaraj was now, it was an NDA government, and Sushma Swaraj was the Minister of Telecom. And by now, by the way, other thing that was happening, we were able to win some support also in Delhi circles. As people who have been wronged, I mean, they've looked at. So one of the person who was supporting us was the new telecom secretary called Kokak. He was kind of trying to help us. He was not as strong as Vittal and all that, but we had gone and met him, he had heard the story, and he probably realized that something had gone wrong. And he did some email finding, and he was trying to sort of see if something can be done, if defense can give us spectrum. He was not able to help us very much, but he was trying to help us. And in the meantime, TCL had filed a case. And suddenly we heard a very peculiar thing, that the telecom ministry has set up a committee to inquire whether we have stolen the technology. Correct technology is a stolen technology. We heard later on from Kokak that some people, two gentlemen from Scandinavian countries, East Europe, some countries, I don't remember which, Nordic countries, some countries had come. They are the one who had done DECT, we are doing CORDECT, we are using a DECT standard and we are expanding that. They had earlier done some DECT technology. And they came and met Sushma Swaraj. And Gokul also told us that they said, sir, madam, these people in India, we hear about coding technology. This is a stolen technology. And the main argument they were putting that they had put something like 500 people working for 3-4 years to develop the basic technology. And these people claim to have put only 40-45 people and seem to have worked it for 2 years and developed the technology. It's not possible. And Sushma Swaraj immediately said, well, if you suspect that so, we'll set up an inquiry. We'll figure out whether it is stolen. No talk about where it is stolen from, how it has happened, just allegation based on which she will set up an inquiry. Gokul seemed to have pleaded with her that, madam, please do not do this. Actually, it is a department which has done wrong. Within department, people had done wrong. They had done everything to try to prevent Professor Jhunjhunwala and others to get things going, and there is a talk that they have been stolen things, and they are already in bad shape. These are professors who have done this, and they don't have money, and you set an inquiry, they are sent back further, and the whole thing will go for a toss, and they will be dead. Please figure out a way to stop it. I'm told that she told that, हमारे यहाँ सीता को भी आग से गुजरना पड़ा था. If they are so, let them go through this. दूध का धुल्ला, दूध का दूध हो जाएगा पानी. So essentially, it was a very big setback for us. Because here duties, or media used to cover all these things. And suddenly our institute got very nervous. That these people, 3 people, did they do something wrong? So Professor Natarajan said, we have to have an internal committee to determine whether they did something right or wrong. Of course, Professor Radhakrishna Rao of Electrical Engineering Department, he came and said, sir, I know what they have done, I've seen. But Natarajan says that, but this has happened, so what is really behind all this? And there is also a feeling that maybe Institute has got a rough deal, they have signed a deal, in which they personally may make something, this Institute will get a rough deal. So he said, I certainly need to find and investigate. He didn't know. Till that time he was quite supportive. And I remember that therefore a meeting takes place. We go into detail of the history, how the whole thing happened, our agreement, what did agreement say, everything. And fortunately, Professor Natarajan and a few other people said, you seem to have done everything right and gone out of way to do everything right. You seem to have done nothing wrong. Then why all this is going on? So, well, this is something that is beyond our this thing, but that's how things happen, and we have gone out of it. See, history is also getting very good deal. We are not. Institute of Qaeda by now has accepted that. Yes. So they decided 100 times, say, don't worry, now I will back you. So Institute had some support. But beyond that, it was getting very difficult. I mean, this whole issue, even why Midas people are working here, but this could have been a big issue. We had, of course, signed agreement and kept our ICNSR informed that that's the way we will do, and we'll share all the revenues and all that. So fortunately, we were able to get away with it. In the meantime, when this was going on, there were a few friends of ours. It was discussed quite a bit in media, and there was a number of people in media who had taken a position that these people have been wrong. Jhunjhunwala and others have been wrong. They have developed major technology, and but of course, certain section of media was targeting us also. So there was a lot going on, and we on the other hand were running out of money almost every day, motivating everyone. I remember that we used to get so beaten with news, negative news coming, and total almost fallen down. Had no idea what to do. By the evening, we'll go home with our face quite white, all three of us and our team. Go sleep. Next morning, we'll be up there doing the next technical work. While all this was going on, we continued. This was important, and at that time I realized I had done very limited reading of Gita, but I knew this much, that your dharma is to keep on doing the right thing. Foods are not in your hand. You get beaten up, this, that. Somehow, next morning is another day, and you just come and work with full energy. At least technical work never stopped. That was the good part. By and large, we were able to manage and maintain and motivate the team to just go on doing things, even though all these negative things were coming up. Okay, what does one do? Money, how does one do? And Ashok Kamath and all devices. Some of our partners were supportive, others were by now were also losing hope. We also had a few friends, scientist friends, who had heard about it, and different sections were talking about it. There was one gentleman named Garg. He was associated strong RSS, was with RSS. He had somehow met me earlier and even visited us and realized that we had done something really good. And he took upon himself, and along with another friend of mine, Jitendra Bajaj, who one day took me to the RSS headquarters and met their number one person, I don't remember, Anshu Bhaiya or whoever, and got me to sit down with him and tell my story. He heard this, and since Garg and Bajaj and others were talking about it, kind of realized, he said, we call Sushma Swaraj. And he made a call to Sushma Swaraj and said, Beti, so they talked about it. Said, Beti, तुमने तो कुछ ठीक नहीं किया है इन लोगों के साथ about us. And she didn't remember, she said, called Jhunjhunwala, Cordict, I don't remember exactly what happened. But अब ऐसा कीजिए, I'm going today to UK for some meeting. I'll be back in 3 days. Ask Jhunjhunwala to meet me. If something has gone wrong, then set it up. Please, very pleased. That now, hopefully, we'll get some support from her, and this inquiry will be withdrawn. And maybe we'll also start getting some orders and things will be fixed, because minister has found. First time we are meeting minister. So far, in all this, we have never met the ministers. And we waited. 3 days later on, she came. But the day she came, the BJP, there was daily election was announced. Some reason I don't remember. And she was asked to become the Chief Minister's Secretary, Chief Minister candidate. She resigned from Telecom Minister and was found there. So our last hope disappeared. In the meantime, and a lot of people knew about it, media was covering it, so somebody took me to Mupur, who was in Chile. He was part of this, what is called, some Congress movement. They had split from Congress, and Chidambaram was part of their thing. And somebody took him and I told him the whole thing. And one of the other things that had happened, which I did not mention, was, while all this was going on, and this was done by a government just before the BJP government, there was an order to put a special tax on our system. A substantial tax which will reduce our cost advantage. And we are going on trying to fight that also. Why? How did this happen? This tax was specially recorded by this government. And apparently Chidambaram had something to do with it, or Chidambaram was the finance minister, or knew about it. And he immediately called Chidambaram and said, please meet us. And I remember I and Bhaskar going and meeting Chidambaram, and Chidambaram was reading something, he listened to us. We realized a few things that we thought that he was not listening to us, but he was listening to every word of ours. He never looked at us, but was listening to us. Because at the end of it, he first tried to say, what can I do about it? I said, sir, we have come to, at the request, Uprana sir has told us that you can help us. Why did this special tax get put and how it can be removed? And he told me that, this was a request from telecom department. And it was a routine thing. By this time, we had found out. Routine thing, telecom department puts it, we don't question it, we just put that. And he told me also what all it will take to reverse it. It was a very complex procedure. He says he can help us, but he's no longer part of the government. What can he do? Kind of. So, helplessness from all sides. Gradually, remember, this is a very fast pace. Remember, October 2nd was Gandhi's birthday, was the day I get the telecom. A lot of these things are happening fast. Suddenly December comes, and we get a call from a professor from Anna University, Kuntala Jaira. We had known of her. She was the one who had formed this biotechnology department, and in Anna University was considered to be a pioneer in that area. She calls me and says that next All India Science Congress in January is going to take place here in Chennai at Anna University. And she wants to meet me, and I went and met her, and she says that she wants us to put on wireless local loop system on the campus in displays and actually also provide servicing to us. And I told him that we can also do internet. She was very received, why not provide that? But we said, madam, we are really down, we don't have resources, and it is everything. She knew about the difficulty that we were going to get into. She was a person, very strict person. She was fairly kind to me. By the way, other thing that happened by now is that I had got another award. That part was going on. That was the interesting part that was going on in between. And that also I can tell you what happened, but I was getting award after award. So scientific circles, some acceptability was there. And I used to still go and speak a lot at conferences. Everybody used to admire what we are doing. So there was some positive thing. So she said that you should do this, and I'll help you if you, money also if necessary, I can help you a little bit. And I came back and talked to my team, and so I said, well, we are down, but we have systems. Might as well, it's a labor, let's go and put it. Not that we expect much. Prime Minister will also come, will put a stall, and will also provide this. So, in the meantime, I was going on to meet, for example, Murli Manohar Joshi, who was the education minister, MHR education minister. I had gone to him, talked to him. He, of course, talked to me very nicely, but he kind of sort of said, what can he do? He said he will talk to the telecom minister, but nothing happened. So we had put it, and Prime Minister came along with Education Minister Murli Manohar Joshi also met us. Prime Minister showed him everything, It's very good. He liked what he saw. And but we didn't in short time can't even tell any story. And people are doing very good work and told that yes, he's getting awards also now. And we are full supporter of him. Then his visit happened. There were a lot of people who were very curious of what was going on. These scientists started many of them using internet for the first time. And somebody say, what is this technology? Wireless technology, doing telephony and internet? It was an amazing thing. That time it was an amazing thing for many of these people. That will come to help us in a short while, I'll tell you. But in the meantime, what was also happening is that from 97 onward, 96, 97 onwards, few other things was happening. One is Professor Yashpal met me in one conference and saw my presentation, liked it. He said, I'd like to come and visit you. He came and visited, saw everything that we're doing, and he became one of our biggest champions. He used to talk about it, and I think all those things must have helped me get those scientific recognition. Similarly, Goinso, I remember making a presentation, and there is this man, I didn't even recognize him, going on asking me question after question after question, and then later on met me and came to IIT Madras, saw the whole thing, and became our biggest friend and champion. We lost him recently, a month back. He passed away, felt bad. He was a horrible. These were our strongest supporters throughout their life. Without question, they supported everything that we did and contributed to us. Of course, our own joint telematics group of 5 IITs, they were all supporting us. So I was getting recognition also. I mean, IIT Kanpur then gave me a distinguished alumnus and then Bhatnagar Award, and then I got this Firodia Award. So Firodia Award happened later, around that time only. So all this was happening. And in the meantime, these scientists were using it. And the whole thing ended, and we're happy that people, but we are kind of almost giving up. Till we heard 2 news. First news that we heard was that there is a pre-budget consultation that goes on. And Yashwant Sinha was the finance minister, and Professor Indiresan had gone there, was invited there in the pre-budget consultation. And some discussion was going on. And of course, we heard that suddenly Professor Indiresan got very angry. He never used to be angry, and started shouting and talked about what kind of support to science and technology can we talk about? You are dead against Indian science and technology. How you are killing this corded wireless in local loop? He went on and collapsed.
Professor collapsed.
Collapsed, yeah. He was treated, then they were taken away. Professor Indiresan collapsed. It became a news. And we got to know about the incident. Felt in one way very good about their people who were standing up. But what will happen? There was another meeting that we heard about, and this took place in INSA office, Indian National Science Academy, in Delhi, some INSA or some of the other bodies. And there, Murli Manoj Joshi was going on talking about how he has been a great supporter of science and technology. And suddenly, I heard that some people from the back started saying this is all lies. And then another person would speak and say, we went and saw there was this wireless technology that Jhunjhunwala has done, and how you people have killed it. And number of people stood up and started, and the meeting was disrupted and cancelled. I'm told that Advani ji heard about these 2 incidents, one involving finance ministry, one involving INSA. Munimolo Joshi. And he started trying to inquire around, who is this Jhunjhunwala? What is this happening? Maybe I'd like to meet you. Now there was one person at that time. He was secretary to Vajpayee, Sudhindra Kulkarni. He's in IIT Bombay.
Yes.
And he knew us. He knew what was going on. Kind of was trying to support us, but couldn't go very far. There was another person, Tarun Vijay. He was an editor of Panchajanya, the RSS mouthpiece. RSS newspaper. Should they use the term mouthpiece? Newspaper. So he was a very good friend of us. He used to regularly visit us. In fact, he was the one who got us in touch with Garg and other things. Himself not a scientist, but we knew that we were doing causes, working very closely. And so, Advani ji asked these two people, and said, we know Jhunjhunwala, and we can arrange for him to come. So they contacted us, and both of us decided to go, but he says it is not likely to, like many other meetings, things may not happen. So we talked to Professor Indirisan, we talked to Vittal, we talked to Yashpal, and we talked to Govind Swarup, I think, 4 of us. They said they will come along with us. So we walked into Advaniji's room with Professor Indirisan, Vittal, Yashpal, and Govind Swarup, and myself and Pasar. He met us. He knew all these 4 people, didn't know us. They introduced us. He said, why have you come along? He said, sir, we are all know about his technology, have been associated with it right from the beginning, and we know what is going on. And we thought that since you want to try to find out, you might as well tell you what the truth is. We sit down and say, these 4 people are telling me there is a question of, I know something is seriously gone wrong. Certainly what we're telling is truth. He went into them with a discussion. ऐसा सरकार में क्यों होता है? What is there a conspiracy? And so Professor and Vittal said something. He says, we should get to the bottom of this conspiracy. We should set up a good committee which will get to the bottom of it. And I remember Yashpal saying, sir, you will set up a committee, it will take another 6 months to come up with a report. By the meantime, these people will die. You want to do something? Do immediately. He immediately called the new telecom minister, Jagmohan. Jagmohan, the person who was governor of Kashmir, and he had become the telecom minister. And told him that I am with Professor Jhunjhunwala, Dr. Jhunjhunwala, and IIT Madras, and they have developed this wireless local loop, and something seriously has gone wrong. I want you to totally find out what has gone wrong and correct it. Cannot allow this kind of thing to happen. And he told him these four people. Actually, the 4th person who went along with us was NGK Menon. Not NGK Menon had also come. By the way, another thing that happened was that when that conference took place, that Indian Science Congress, there were 3-4 people. NGK Menon, Mr. Ramurthy, Mashelkar. They met us, they saw the whole thing there, and they said, we want to see IIT and come. So each of them came for half a day or 2-3 hours with us and saw everything. And each of them became big champions. So nothing like this has happened in India. You have 50-60 people working like this in IIT and developing this. They saw everything. They all became very good champions. So all this was happening. So the Science Congress helped us with so many things. And they were also, by the way, in some of those meetings, and they will confirm that what they are saying, what these people who are shouting are saying is true. So he told Jagmohan that you have to set it right. I'm going to send these people. So along with MGK Menon, so Professor Govindswarup was not there. MGK Menon will take us next day to meet them. So the two of us, along with MGK Menon, goes and meets Jhunjhunwala. And Jhunjhunwala is sitting, makes us sit, and as we start talking, within a few tenths of seconds, he starts firing questions to us. Basically blaming us that first of all we are telling lies. We are trying to spread misinformation about his department in the media, talking to media about the wrong things that department has done, whereas they have not done anything wrong. That means he had done full preparation. By now, he goes on and on and on. And will try to argue, but he will have a counter argument and will not be listening to us. We are looking at NGK Menon. NGK Menon will try to speak something, but Jhunjhunwala will even shut him down. NGK Menon, I think, was some kind of assistant, what is called deputy, not minister.
Scientific advisor.
Scientific minister or something. But still, looks like we are in trouble. He is not going to listen to anything at all. We tried to tell him. And when things were hopeless, I pull out from my bag a letter and give it to him. Now, this is an incident where remember that we went to Chidambaram, that why this special tax has been put on all it. So, what had happened at that time? Somebody totally unknown to us one day gives us a call. The same department phone that I had. I had one phone at office also by that time, two phones. So, same courtesy V.S. Raju. So, got a call saying that I just saw a letter, which I think is not a right letter and is against you people. Finance Ministry, much lower level, who seemed to have seen this letter. And he said something and he had read something about the newspaper about this, saying something not right, and can I fax you this letter? I was like, no, but what? You can. I gave him the number and he faxed me that letter. So I have a letter from Department of Telecom asking Finance Ministry to put a special tax on our system. So I had that letter. So I tried to tell him that the department had asked special tax to be put. And he said, this is another thing that Jagmohan says, this is another thing that you are telling a lie. Why will we do that? We never do that. And at this point, I look at this thing, I take it out and give him the letter. He got the letter, he saw the letter, he went through this, down, he looked at it. And this now, he talks to me in a very different tone, politely. Ashok, I understood. Give me 5 days. 5 days later, on such and such day, you come and meet me again at such and such time. I understood. You don't need to say anything more than that. I believe what you are saying. So we'll be very happy. 5 days later, we again go to Delhi, go and meet him. This time, he had a big room, the minister, a big room. We see about 20 other officers sitting in all different places. Almost all the officers, we knew most of them. And we go there very happy, saying that now. And as soon as we sit down, this time the firing starts from all these officers, secretary, and one by one accusing us that we are doing, more or less similar to what we had, and worse, because it was rougher and it was more deeper things, and it had done more preparation, so everything that we tell, just the opposite of that they will tell, and says, and we have very little proof, and they will go on. And it was like before one person tells, the other person speaks, and I'm not able to even answer, not even allowed to answer. So, and this time only two of us had gone, and Jikiran had also not gone, and we are totally taken aback at what is this happening. We look at Minister Mohan, and he just does like this. I said that, but looks like he has something in mind. So we now relax and play with him and keep on answering their question more systematically, a little more confident. And it goes on for about 20 minutes. And of course, then Minister sort of says, he tells me, he talks to his people. This team has also spoken another lie about our writing to Finance Ministry about tax, special tax. That's exactly what we are saying, sir. Because they just wrote, and they are going on spreading, saying that we are the one who asked for it. He takes out a bunch of copy of that letter that I had taken from me and distributes to everybody. Just passes that. And it was a letter that was, as people see, I could see, our face suddenly becoming white, every one of them. For about 2-3 minutes there is a silence. And then there is a movement where everyone is pointing fingers against somebody else. And finally, very soon, it boils down to one young man that he has written that letter. He is by far. And of course, this gentleman tries to say that he was told, but they kind of rough on it. But he also says, sir, but did it not make sense? After all, their system was so low cost that they would have become monopoly. So I was told that you should not allow anybody to be the monopoly. So we have to put tax on them, so that there is a competition. Competition helps the country. But anyway, I think this whole game was over. And Jagmohan became a big supporter. He told us that now we'll get orders, we'll get everything will be cleared in no time. In the meantime, another thing that happened about the frequency spectrum, that is another good thing that had happened. Kalam was already now fairly high up. I don't remember what he was. And he got to know about it. And got a meeting.
Was the President of India, most probably?
No, he was, before that, he was scientific advisor. So, yeah. Or he was not, he had finished a scientific advisor. He calls a meeting with about 30-35 senior officers of defense sitting there. And there this thing was discussed, that how we are given this particular spectrum for developing the technology, and after we finished this, the spectrum was denied and we were told it has to be something else, and it is with defense, and we are therefore not able to deploy it in India even though our system is ready, and how useful the system is to the country. A very interesting response from various senior defense officers. But this is not nothing new. We see it all the time. Being done against those who believe in indigenous development of technology for defense. All the time games are played with us. And one of them say, if we allow these people to die because they don't have the spectrum, it will be a big setback for indigenous technology. Not just for them, for us. Club was not there, but he organized the meeting. Can we figure out a way? And this time, another interesting thing that takes place. While these 20, 25 senior people are sitting there, behind them there are some young officers. And one of them I recognize as our student, was our alumni. They remember that for MTech, many of them come, at least one of them, I think there may have been more than one, who was our student. And immediately they get upset. We think we can. They come up with a plan, with this thing that this place it is being used, that spectrum, this place, this equipment is using, this equipment, they are done now. They present and they say, sir, we can vacate in about 3 to 4 days. We can tune all of this. Their equipment was tunable. So they can move out of this band and give this whole band for audit. So they released the whole band. Whole 20 megahertz band was released for audit. It was specifically defense rights saying that it is being released for audit wireless load. Of course, even after release, the telecom department was not willing to give it to us. He says, well, they have released it to telecom, but it's up to us to decide what to do. But after this meeting, things move. He comes here, Jhunjhunwala, visiting somewhere, supposed to drive, supposed to meet and even come to IIT, but he gets late, and we finally get to meet him only at 10:30 p.m. in the night. Because he was traveling by car and got delayed somewhere. So at 10:30 p.m. he sits down and talks to us. Say, yes, we are going to do this. Immediately I release to 2,000 line order, and then this will do. We will figure this out. All this is making us feel very happy that things will move. And things start moving. We do hear about something going on and all that. A few gains were done. But so a few weeks later, suddenly we hear the news that Jhunjhunwala has been asked to leave. This time because it had nothing to do with us. There was this whole dispute going on in telecom between licensees and licensor, and he was taking a very hard position, and so some of it is even now an AGR issue is related. And finally, I think enough pressure was applied for Vajpayee to drop it. And we are taken aback. I remember next day we called in Sudhindra Kulkarni, and Sudhindra Kulkarni assures us that don't worry, by now he knows everything, that this has nothing to do with your thing, you will still be supported. But we had to do this and all that. But fine, I think by now things slowly now happens one after another. Still very painful, but systems do happen. There were honors placed, we deployed, but not at that scale. But a lot of things happened. Midas had moved out by this time and they had become a company, and they were doing well. They did well, I think totally. In the meantime, several other countries also something had done. They probably deployed about 500,000 or 1 million line around the world in India. Of course, they made lots of mistakes. They were good as a technologist, but as a company, they did not know what to do. So at a certain point in time, they get funding, but they don't. Because what had happened is that this whole delay that was taking place, other technologies were catching up. And by the time we start getting order, our 4 times advantage was already gone down to almost 1.5 times and all that. And then these other companies had the ability to drop down the prices, and so. But I think we had done our job. By now we are really recognized. Connect Wireless Local Loop was the pioneer technology which brought the WLL, and there were other WLL technologies came up and started getting pushed, and while our telephony started happening. And in the meantime, there was some issue on policy that was also tackled. In fact, some of us had gone and met Vajpayee about that. That also got done. And 100 million telephone did happen in 2001. And it happened because of wireless. We've got a small part of it, but
No, in India,
in India,
100 million phones.
maybe 2001 or toward the end of 2001. So we had put a target 2000, maybe 1 or 2 years down the line, it happened. Of course, all kinds of technologies. Now GSM price had also gone down. All those things played a role. So fabulous. But we were delayed. We were pushed down. All this hurt. We lost 5 years. And stopped. But fine. The other thing happened was that I got permission. And in the meantime, started trying to deploy this in rural areas widely and reaching that PMP had not happened, this started happening. And this got fairly popular and large number of companies place it out there.
Great. So we'll call a pause today.